Did you know you can make boba out of rice paper? It's really easy to do. Dip your rice paper into cool water, then fold the bottom and sides and roll it up like this. Cut it into boba-shaped balls, and then for the syrup, add some brown sugar and water and let it reduce. Then add your rice paper and let it cook till it thickens. I also realized this drink is better warm or hot because if it gets too cold, the balls will get too hard. So just don't make this mistake and they'll stay perfectly chewy. And I never knew this, but can you do this with salmon? Sure. So I'm using raw salmon and flavoring with my favorite combo of ingredients. As for rice paper, I like to use the one with a rose on it. Add dried seaweed, then wet your hands and spread out the rice. Season with furikake and some masago. And you can stop here and start eating, but I'm going to pan fry so that the outside can get a bit crispy. Sashimi grade salmon, QP mayo, Thai sweet chili sauce, sriracha, a little sesame oil, and sesame seeds. Cut into triangles like this, deep fry, and really shake out that oil. Let me show you another rice paper recipe. So rice paper is really delicate, that's why you want to use cold water to dip. It should soften and then just roll it up, cut it into pieces and add the skewers. Then you want to mix in your sauce, and all of these are really common Korean ingredients. Once the sauce looks like this, add your rice cakes and let it cook a bit longer to caramelize. Let's try another rice paper recipe. So this is going to be sort of like mozzarella sticks, but instead we're using rice paper. I'm using string cheese, just wrap that up tight, and so it doesn't splatter in the oil, you want to make sure it's really dry. Drop into oil and it should crisp up like this. Dip into Thai sweet chili sauce and just look at how cheesy that is. Let's try another rice paper recipe. I know a lot of you aren't able to find rice cakes, so instead we're going to use rice paper. I'm using cool water to dip, just let it sit and eventually it'll soften. And then for the other half, I'm cutting the rice paper in half and then adding these cheese sticks. Now for the sauce, I'm using dashi, but you can use any broth you like. A spoonful of red pepper paste, add your rice cakes, soy sauce, red pepper flakes. I like oligo syrup, but any sweetener is fine. Let it cook and you can add a splash of water if needed. And then right before it's done, add sesame seeds and sesame oil. Cut your rice paper into triangles. Test your oil, make sure it's ready, and fry just one at a time. Shake off the excess oil and put it on a paper towel. Now you'll need sashimi grade salmon, Japanese mayo, sriracha, a little sugar, and fine fish roe. And now add your salmon right on top. Now listen to the crunch. You probably have a lot of leftover rice paper, so here's what you can make. No oil is needed here. I'm adding chili oil and quail eggs. I also like to add lots of cheese, and whatever protein you have in the fridge is fine. I'm cutting up some chives, and once the cheese is melted, just flip it over. Then I like to drizzle with QP mayo and sriracha. And if you're anything like me, here's an idea for your next ramen bowl. Dip your rice paper into cool water, then you're going to fold it up and the sides in, Then just roll it up and it should look like this. If you watch my videos, then you'll know that this is my favorite brand of ramen, but I like to drain the water and add milk and then a little bit of peanut butter. Add your rice paper and these will be so chewy, just like the real thing. So if you have rice paper, let me show you how to make these crispy shrimp rice paper bites. Start by seasoning your shrimp, and everything's listed right here on the screen. Cut up an avocado into small strips. Then cut a rice paper in half and dip it into slightly warm water, but even cool water will work too. Fold the sides over until it's completely enclosed. Shallow fry shrimp side down first until it's cooked through and crispy. And if you need more ideas to use that leftover rice paper, so you all know I love my rice paper recipes, and today I'll show you how to make these traditional Vietnamese spring rolls. I like to use tiger shrimp, bring it to a boil with some salt, turn down the heat, and then let it gently finish cooking. Then add pork belly to the same pot, and you want to gently boil this too. Gather all of your filling ingredients, and it's really up to you to use what you like. Make sure you wrap everything really tightly, and these are so good with a peanut dipping sauce, and I'll leave the measurements right here on the screen. Let's try another rice paper recipe. So I'm adding a sheet to a dry pan on medium heat. I like to add a little chili oil for more flavor and an egg. Then I use my chopsticks to scramble it in the pan and keep moving it all around until it's slightly set. So you can use any proteins that you like. I'm using this Vietnamese ham, a sprinkle of cheese, and then for my sauce, sriracha and Kewpie mayo, and a handful of salad greens. Did you know you can make boba out of rice paper? So it's really easy. Start by dipping the rice paper into cool water, fold the bottom third up, and then fold in the sides, and then roll it up. Make the brown rice syrup using brown sugar and water, add the rice balls, and then let it reduce until it has a syrupy consistency. Then I'm also adding black tea and milk, and this does work better as a hot drink since the rice paper will harden if it's too cold. Let's try a rice paper recipe. I'm using a dry pan, and I'm going to add the rice paper, and I'm going to grab 1 egg. I like to use chopsticks, and I'm just going to scramble this right in the pan to just move it all around. It should slowly cook, just give it a few minutes. It's mostly set. Now I'm going to add some cheddar cheese. For protein, I'm using just some leftover crab sticks that I have in my fridge. I'm going to use 2 pieces. Then for a little seasoning, I'm going to add sriracha and then some Kewpie mayo. This is what it looks like. It's kind of like a pizza. This part is optional, but I have some leftover lettuce, and I'm going to add just a little bit on top. And then to make this easier for eating, I'm going to fold it in half. The pieces that don't have the egg on it are really, really crispy, but then this part inside is really soft. Let's give it a try. It's really good. This is actually the second one that I've made and eaten today. This takes me just 3 minutes to make. I also really like it because I can use up my leftovers that I have in the fridge. Really, the only thing you need is rice paper and an egg, and you can use whatever it is you have in your fridge. I just use random things that I needed to use up before they go bad. Anytime I'm lazy, I just want something really quick and easy. this is what I like to make. All you need is rice paper and seaweed to make these seaweed chips. Start by cutting the rice paper to fit the seaweed, kind of like you're making a puzzle, then dip into water and shake off that excess, and this is how it's going to stick. I know this looks weird, but I'm using a blow dryer so that I don't have to wait a whole day for it to dry. Now just cut it into squares and shallow fry. And if you want a really easy snack recipe, let's try another rice paper recipe. So I'm sure you've all seen this before, but what changes are what I put inside. I had some leftover imitation crab sticks that I'm using. Then I added some Kewpie mayo for creaminess and sriracha for more flavor. This all took less than 10 minutes to make, and it's just a really good way to use up anything left over that you have in your fridge. Let's try another rice paper recipe. So I'm using the bulldog carbonara ramen. The flavor is cheesy, creamy, and spicy with a slight sweetness. Take a rice paper sheet and dip it in room temperature water. Add your noodles and a handful of cheese. Fold all the sides in and then pan fry both sides until crispy.